Hi everybody, it's Brad with Big Family Homestead, and in this video we have another edition of the Homestead Nation. That's right, we are with Carolina Prepper 7 and we are talking finance, so let's get to it right now. So I've had the privilege of interviewing and talking with and chatting with Carolina Prepper 7, who is a financial guy. He's a financial guru guy and he knows what's what when it comes to money. So we've been getting a lot of questions about how can I get my homestead? How can I get my prep, my bug out location, my farm? How can I get from point A to point B? And so he is going to give us some tips today on how money works, what you can do with different, strategies, if you will, on how to get from point A to point B so you can get that home, that prep, that whatever it is that you need to get your goal. So he's going to talk about different ways you can save money, how it works, insurance, all kinds of crazy cool stuff. And before we get to this conversation, please go ahead and click subscribe right now if you don't mind. I greatly appreciate it. Helps my family out. Don't forget to share the video once it's done. You guys enjoy. This is an awesome conversation. He's got a lot of great info, so let's get it now.
Hi, everybody. It's Brad with Big Family Homestead with Carolina Prepper 7. We are so excited to be with you. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
I am finer than a frog's hair, my friend, and that is pretty fine.
Excelente, senor.
Yeah, we are here today, and we're going to talk about something that is near and dear to, let's just say, I don't know anybody that this topic is not near and dear to, and that is finance, money, how to save money. We are of the homesteading, prepping, self-reliant community, and everybody has that dream of getting that your perfect place, your perfect prep spot, or your bug out location, or your homestead, or your farm. But the reality for so many of us is that, well, frankly, we weren't really taught properly how to use money to our own advantage. So today we are going to borrow some of your gray matter and root around in there and hopefully find some nuggets of truth. So basically, I guess my first question to you is, now, give me some of the common misconceptions that we've all been taught. For example, I know for myself, just getting a loan is not necessarily the right situation. It can be a good thing if you're having your money work for you, but just any old loan is not going to work. So start with stuff like basic things that people always think, well, I got this and I got that. Credit cards, for crying out loud. Everybody thinks different stuff. Correct us on some of the big ones.
Well, first thing I want to say, and this is a recent statistic that I heard, and I'm not going to get the number right, so I'll just say the majority of Americans, okay? So it's well over 50%. But the majority of Americans in a recent survey could not come up with $2,000 if they had 30 days to do so. They just couldn't come up with it. So that tells me that the majority of the country is in financial trouble, let's say. And it's no surprise. I mean, our government's in financial trouble. So one of the biggest questions that I get out of, or I should say one of the most frequent comments I get on my videos is, wow, great job. You're really doing well. That's a goal of mine, or that's a dream of mine to be able to do that. But the finances aren't allowing it. So I'm hopeful that at some point in the future, I'll be able to do that. So I think after you and I had a couple of conversations, we thought this would be a great topic to try to talk to people and maybe give them some ideas. And none of this is rocket science. None of this is brain surgery. You and I are about the same age, and you probably remember the old Richard Simmons Deal-A-Meal program. Remember that?
Yes, I do, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, that guy sold, it must have been billions of dollars worth of that stuff. And that was simply just being able to keep track of what you're eating. Weight Watchers did the same thing. And they had a program where you came in once a week and you weighed in. It kept you accountable. So I think some of the things we're going to talk about are going to do just that. It's not going to be anything earth-shattering, but it is, if you go through the exercises that we talk about, I think it's going to have a real impact on your finances. So getting back to what you said about credit card, man, first and foremost, I would say cut those suckers up. You don't need them. It's a number one
Now,
problem.
Tell me more. Why don't I need them? Did you see that Saturday Night Live bit they did a few years back where it was like some guy, some financial guru guy he was selling a book, but it was basically one page, one sentence. If you don't have the money, don't buy it. That was his whole self-help book, for finance. And then the people were questioning him. But what if I want to buy an item and I don't have the money? And then he just keeps repeating himself, if you don't have the money, don't buy it.
Well, no, I didn't see it, but it really is that simple, right? It really is that simple.
It's just so painful because we want our goodies now.
Well, sure, right? But our parents didn't, and our grandparents didn't. I mean, they knew how to save, and they knew that if they were going to buy something, they were going to use cash to do it. They were going to save up, and they were going to forego the immediate gratification for a longer term, better financial footing. Somewhere along the line, we lost that as a nation. We lost that as a government. We lost that as a people. Not all of us, most of us.
So you're saying that basically they don't have a use in your world.
Well, let me back up. I use credit cards. I'm using them less and less, but I use them for two reasons. Number one, it's convenient. Actually, for more than two. Number one, it's convenient. Number two, it helps me keep track of expenses. And number three, I get cash back on my card. So as long as you are disciplined enough to pay it off at the end of every month and not get yourself into trouble, they certainly have a place. Unfortunately, the majority of Americans are not disciplined, and what they do is they start to dig themselves a hole. Mm-hmm. And it's real simple. At the end of the month, you don't have enough. I'll just pay $500 of the $1,000 that I owe, and I'll get back to it next month. Well, what do most of us do? Again, not all of us. I don't want to paint all of America with the same brush. But statistics don't lie where I'm telling you it's the vast majority of Americans. They'll go out and they'll put another $1,000 on next month. So now they owe $1,500. They say, well, I only have $300 to put down this month. And then quickly you're behind the eight ball and you're paying 15, 18, 23%. It's outrageous. You're never going to get out from under that unless you just cut the cord. And I mean literally cut them in half.
Wow. Now, but now let's talk a little bit about, let's say that you are rebuilding your credit. Let's say you've had issues with, overspending and well, frankly, how do you get a good credit score without using tools like that?
Well, I'm certainly not an expert on how to get a good credit score because these credit reporting agencies, they use just some wacky algorithms. Basically, what I would do if I were in that situation, I'm trying to rebuild. That means that I've gone through some pretty horrendous periods in my life financially, and I'm digging out, and I'm now at the point to where I want to try to rebuild. They do have debit/credit card programs out there where you can actually put the money in the account. So it's kind of like a debit program, but you're using it like a credit card. You have to put the money in first before you can use it. So that means the cash has got to be there. You can't get into trouble because you can't charge more than what's already in the account, like a debit card.
Oh, I see.
So you can utilize that. You can utilize that to go ahead and excuse me, I got dogs barking back there. I apologize.
It's all right.
I think the UPS guy just showed up, but you can certainly use a program like that to start to rebuild.
So that will develop your credit while you're still not in a situation where you can overspend.
Right.
Man, that's cool. Now let me ask you this: in terms of income, see, for me, I've had highs and lows in my life. I've had times when I've made lots and lots of money, and then times like now where we barely get by. We pay our bills, but there's very little, if anything, left. Now, how would you approach somebody like that who I want so badly to get a farm homestead that is bigger than the 1 acre that I have? And I know hopefully people don't hear me and say, oh my gosh, I wish I had an acre. That guy's such a jerk, because that's not my heart. My heart is just to have a bigger thing. It's we want to do larger animals, yada, yada, yippee, skippy. Sure. But how would you, or what would you say to a person like myself who's just getting by? We pay our bills. We're getting by. How do I get out of this hole to end up getting into a better situation?
Well, great question, because a lot of people ask that, right? And by the way, you're not alone. The majority of America is in the same boat. I mean, it's tough out there. Don't believe the headlines. When you look just beyond Main Street, it's pretty tough out there. I would ask you, I'd pose the question back, do you have a plan?
You know what? And that is a fair and brutally honest question to ask. And the answer I would have to say is it changes almost every month because we live so right on the edge that if the truck tire goes bad, then I got to take that money that I was going to put into savings and fix the stupid truck or else I can't get to work. So we try to have a plan. And actually, we've gone to a lot of people say, when you're coming out of debt situations that you should go as cash based as you can. And that's kind of what we've been doing, sticking the cash in envelopes. And this one's labeled for mortgage and this one's labeled for this and this one's labeled for that. And when it's gone, it's gone. Well, the problem is life happens, man. And when the truck tire goes bad, we have to pull it from what we thought was going to be savings. So I guess that's the long way around answering your question, that we really want to have a plan, but it keeps getting, we keep getting rolled over by the monthly changing plans.
No, and that's fair. So add that into your plan because life happens, right? So I deal with people that want to retire, and I go through their bills with them, and we go through a detailed inventory. And I ask them about their car, and they say, "Oh no, that's paid off." Well, you're 62 years old. Is this car going to last you for the next 20 years? And they go, "Oh no, I'll probably need to get a new car." Well, we need to add that into the plan. We can't have that be a surprise 4 years from now or 4 months from now. And if you own your car outright, we have to expect that there's going to be expenses to maintain the car. We have to expect that. We have to plan for it. So most of us, I should say many of us, have a spending problem, not necessarily an income problem. We're spending more than we probably should. All of us have things that we can cut out somewhere along the way, but we allow our desires to get the better of us sometimes. But there's also some of us that have an income problem, and you certainly have to work on the ability to try to generate more income. Think outside the box, use your noodle.
Well, that's one thing that I really, really do like, and I've made tons of videos on different ways that you can save money. Everything from just adjusting your air conditioner a few degrees can end up saving, $40 a month, stuff like that. And I totally agree with you. And one of the things that I personally so advocate for everybody to get involved in is any kind of any kind of thing that you can engage in that's going to end up, you may have to save some money or spend some money right now, but it'll keep making you money. For me, that's chickens. For example, we have 15 laying hens that give us about 12 eggs every day. Well, now I have a lot of kids, so that's great. It's we spent, X amount of dollars to get this set up, but now it's continuing to save us money week after week, week after week. Yeah. What are some of those things that you think that might be good generalizations? Because obviously not everybody has chickens, but what would be some good generalizations that most people could make cuts? They could if they just said, "I want to."
Yeah. Well, great question. So when I'm talking with people, I'll again do a detailed inventory. And one of the things that almost always jumps off the page is the cable bill. I mean, cable bill, whether you like it or not, if you have cable, it seems like once or twice a year they sneak some sort of increase in there.
Yeah.
And if you just make a phone call, and it might take you 5 minutes, it might take you 25 minutes, but if you just make a phone call and you say, "Look, I'm having a hard time, and I need to see about either canceling my cable bill or maybe getting a special rate." 99 times out of 100, from my experience, they'll cut your bill 10, 15, 20, 30% right then and there on the spot. Sometimes they transfer you to a separate department, but it's real money. You're talking $20, you're talking $40, and they'll do it for a full year. So you might have to make that call again in a year, but they'll do it again a year from now.
Dude, that's like $400 or $500 a year, depending on how much, you're spending. Well, and go ahead.
I was going to say, and we actually made the phone call today to cancel our cable altogether. I'm putting the HD antenna up on the house, and I'm gonna start getting my TV that way, and I'm utilizing Netflix because I don't watch regularly.
You are too much rock for one hand. You got to have both hands for as rock and roll as that is. I want so bad to get rid of my cable, but for us, it's actually cheaper because we've got everything bundled together with our internet service. It's crazy. It's like they kind of punish you. I want to detach from all that anyway. I mean, you can get we've got kids, so Netflix is only $9 a month. So if you wanted to have that, well, you still got to have your internet connection. So it's like you're killing smalls.
So the same thing happened to me where they said, well, look, it's going to cost you more for the internet alone than for the internet with a small 20-channel cable package. So I said, all right, sign me up. And then, of course, Time Warner just came through and said, well, now you have to have a digital converter box and it's going to be X amount. And yeah, I'm done with it. I'm done with them. I'm done with cable. I don't need it anymore.
Well, let me ask you this, because trying to find those spots where we can start pulling real money back, like $500 a year over this, and talk about insurance in terms of life insurance. What kinds from your perspective, what's good to have, what's not good to have. And I know that you're not allowed to give specific information, so I'll let you say that this is not, I'm not giving you financial information. This is just your opinion, but talk about insurance.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm not giving you specific financial.
No, we don't want to get sued.
General opinion, that's all. So in insurance, I come across a lot of people that own life insurance that really have no business to own life insurance. For instance, you're a single person with no children, you're in your 40s or 50s, and you got a $300,000 whole life policy because somebody, your dad or your cousin or some insurance guy talked you into getting it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but is it necessary? And do you want to go without something that might be more necessary in your life or might add some value to your life because you have to pay this premium on this life insurance policy? Oh, and by the way, the beneficiary is going to be your alma mater. Why are you doing that? You need to rethink that decision. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to have. I'm just saying rethink it. Also, from a financial standpoint, I have life insurance, but that's because I have children, and if something were to happen to me, there'd be an income gap there.
Yeah.
So my life insurance is to put money back into my household to pay off a mortgage and to send my kids to college if I'm not around to earn an income between now and the time they're ready to go. But I got term insurance because it's the least expensive way that you can get coverage for a specific period of time. So that insurance that I bought for my personal situation is filling that gap. It's filling that 20-year gap, let's say. Because the idea for me was at the end of the 20 years, I will have built up enough of a nest egg to where that insurance becomes less and less necessary. Make sense?
It does. Now, just thinking about some of the conversations we've had in the past, a lot of people have been asking for you to talk more about money, the fiat currency, and I want to throw this bug in your ear too. What you would view as a good balance between precious metals and this fiat liquid currency, vapor currency. Just talk a little bit more about, explain to people again how we got off the gold standard, and then what your opinion is on what you would do in terms of how much of this, how much of that, what's a good balance.
Well, that's a very that's a good question, but it's also each person's going to have their own answer. So I'll give it to you like this. As far as the gold standard goes, we used to be tied to a gold standard, and that was to hold the government in check as to how much money they can print, because each note was a receipt for gold. So you couldn't print so many notes because if people went to go turn them in for the gold, there wouldn't be enough gold. So it kind of kept the government in check. Well, they figured out that, hey, only a small number of people ever come in to turn this in at any one time. I think it's 1%, something like that. So they could print a lot more. And then eventually they got rid of the gold standard altogether. So now there is no standard. In fact, I just saw a video the other day, maybe it was yesterday, where a real expert on precious metals was talking about it. And he said that if you do the math, with the amount of money that's in circulation or has been printed today, if we went back to the gold standard with the amount of gold that they say is in the vault, in Fort Knox, it still should be about $10,000 an ounce.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, and many people don't believe that there's any gold left in Fort Knox, let alone what they say. So I don't know if there's what they say, more or less. My guess is less than none. But if just using the numbers, the amount of currency in circulation that's been printed since we've come off the gold standard versus the amount of gold that they say they have in the vaults, you do the conversion, it's about $10,000 an ounce, according to this video I saw.
Holy smokes. Now, I've been hearing rumblings online of lots of different politicians from not just our country, but all around the world, that bankers, the big-time banksters, are really trying to push for a completely cashless society. What would that do to the preparedness people, the homesteaders, the people that we're relying on these things. And, well, frankly, I view them as an essential part of what's going to happen and what you're going to need to get through in the event of a catastrophe.
So my take on that is that's the government trying to go for the total control, because if they go to a cashless society, it takes away all of our autonomy. We have no more confidentiality. That's the other nice part about using cash is they can't track it. Yeah. So if you want to have some sort of confidential purchase, you can still go to a store and use cash today. Although most of our transactions are more and more being done online, and you still need a credit card in order to do that. So that's going to be the biggest thing for me. But also, it's going to allow the people in charge to turn off your account, with a flip of a switch.
Yeah, if you say something they don't like politically, obviously the NSA has been watching, and obviously with the whole IRS scandal, they clearly have been blocking conservative groups for, doing what they need to do. So I do not put it past these people. They're out of control.
No, absolutely. Not only do I put it past them, I think that's the reason why they're doing this. I think there's an actual plan put in place to lock down the society, have total control, and they want to use a cashless society to do it. Plus, darn well that if every transaction has to go through a bank as opposed to using cash, the banks always get their cut. So
true. It's always amazing to me that, I put my money right in there, but then whenever I want to transfer something or get it back out from them, it takes 4 days or 5 days. Why is that?
Great question. Things should happen instantaneously in today's society. But it doesn't work that way, and I don't have an answer. I'll let you figure out what you think that answer is, Well,
let me ask you this. What about other forms of, I hesitate even using the term money, but new things like Bitcoin. Is that just craziness, or what's the scoop on Bitcoin?
Well, nobody heard of it, 2 years ago, and then it hit the scene, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so. And then everybody I knew was talking about Bitcoin. So I had to try to force myself to learn about it. Conceptually, I think it's kind of neat, but for all the off-gridders that kind of like, hey, Bitcoin's cool, it's outside of the central bank sphere of influence. Effectively, you're going cashless now, right? Yeah. So for any benefit of being outside the sphere of the central banksters, I think there's also some real problems there as well, and there's some real opportunity for people to take advantage of it. And they say that it's safe, but my understanding is that the government went in and confiscated a bunch of these Bitcoins. So there's something new out there called BitGold, I think it's called.
BitGold?
Where it's kind of marrying the idea of Bitcoin, a digital currency, cryptocurrency that's backed by gold. Huh. And that seems really cool. And it may have a place in future society, but I certainly don't want it to take the place of cash.
So you just have to play Minecraft a really long time, and then you get BitGold, right?
Yeah, right. You know what? I can't tell you exactly how you get it, but maybe that's how.
You got to mine for your BitGold on Minecraft. Right. So let's swing back around to some practical things that the average household can do that will make headway in their pocketbook. Because for me, I so badly, it's like when you feel like I can taste it. I want my farm. And for me, I'll say one thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. But for my family, once we started going to a monthly, planned out, scheduled meal plan, we started saving almost 40% on our grocery bill. And now, almost 40%. No lie, dude. And okay, true, we do have chickens and we do process our chickens, so that's not, something that we buy anymore. We every so often we'll go and harvest 30 birds, and we'll just do it. The eggs in the garden, all that stuff adds up, but most people don't believe me when I say that we feed 9 people for 30 days for about $400.
Wow. That's amazing.
Well, and clearly I'm not losing a lot of weight, So we're having meat. We are having all those things, We even get ice cream. Yay. But I think that a lot of people, if they would honestly just sit down and write it out monthly and go to the store one time, and also too tied to the store, another way you can save a lot of money. I don't know what your grocery store chain is where you're at, but for here it's Kroger, and they have fuel points. So when you buy X you get fuel points. Well, since we do our shopping one time a month, we literally get about 80 cents per gallon of gas off almost every month.
Awesome. Yeah, no, there's all kinds of ways that you can cut corners, right? So I started doing the shopping because I noticed my wife, she has a lot of impulse purchases. And moms, maybe this is a mom thing, they tend to react more to what the kids want. So, Mommy, I want that. Where me as a dad, I can say, that's not necessary. That's frivolous. We don't need that. Okay, maybe it's not a mom or dad thing. Maybe it's a me and them thing. But so I started doing the shopping, and it was an eye-opening experience. It gave me the opportunity to see what these things really cost. And through that, I stopped shopping at the Harris Teeter, which is more pricey. I started shopping at Aldi. And we started out doing about 80% Harris Teeter, 20% Aldi. But as I tried more products, not all of them are great. In fact, some of them I'll never try again. But I started finding more and more that not only did I like them as much as the name brand stuff at the grocery store, I liked them more. I liked them better. And they're literally, I can save, 40, 50% over what I'd pay at the Harris Teeter, let's say. So that's one way. I feed a family of 4 on about $100 a week, so $400 a month. The fact that you can do that for 9 people is nothing short of amazing, but I'm not doing it with chickens and eggs. So
and the garden helps a lot.
Yeah. And we did have a small garden, and that's really something I think everybody that's interested in preparedness or homesteading needs to start learning more about. I'm certainly a novice at it. You know a heck of a lot more than I do. But that's a skill that we are trying to learn more about. We're actively doing it, and we have our garden out there now. But I would say this, Brad. You mentioned it. Having a plan before you went to the grocery store helped you save about 40%. So just write it down. Now, statistically, and I kind of like statistics, statistically, you're 9 times more likely to accomplish your goal if you write it out. Amazing. I don't know if you've ever written down, my goal is to have a 5-acre farm by this day. But if you haven't, do it, and you're 9 times more likely to accomplish it.
9 times?
Yeah. I think that's insane. An old Zig Ziglar.
I think it is a Zig thing, man. He was awesome.
Yeah, I think
it was kind of interesting though, because you mentioned that, and I know a lot of motivational speaker types. They mention that, but my mom just passed. But one of the things that was actually very touching, when I went into her bathroom to start helping my dad clean stuff out, she had this big poster right in front of her mirror, and it was a list of stuff like you're saying, all the stuff that she wanted to do. She had it on this poster and written down. The cool thing was none of it was for her. It was always for somebody else. So that was very touching. So yeah, but 9 times more likely.
Yeah, so write it down. If you want that new car, get a picture of it and put it up on your mirror so you can see it every day. If you want to do something to better yourself, write it down and look at it every day as an affirmation. So I would say that's the first thing you want to do. Secondly, you want to sit down with a pen and a paper and start writing things down. We need to know. Most people don't, by the way. They have no idea what goes in or what comes in every month and what goes out. And you get into trouble that way. The reason why Weight Watchers worked if you work it, or your calorie counter apps work if you actually input everything that you eat, is you're keeping track of it. And a weird thing happens when you're keeping track of what you're eating, and you know that muffin's 400 calories and you only have 1,800 calories you can eat that day. You think twice about eating that muffin. In fact, a lot of times you'll forego eating that muffin. So a weird thing starts to happen is if you're religious about doing this, you start to lose weight. It's no secret. So you got to sit down, pen and paper, write down what's coming in every single paycheck, what's going out every single paycheck, and develop a balance sheet. Okay, people are afraid when you use words like balance sheet and budget. It's not scary. Just write it down. Then I would say you want to take an inventory of everything you own and write that down. Write down the value. Write down everything you owe. What are the terms of the loan? What's the interest rate? What's the outstanding balance on that? You need to get a clear picture of everything, because unless you can identify the problems there, how are you going to solve them? And then finally, I'll say this before I shut up. Take your little notepad, and every day, keep it in your pocket, and every time you spend anything, and I don't care if you're filling up with gas, if you're buying your mocha latte grande at Starbucks, or if you're getting new tires, write it down. Write it down. It's going to make you think more about each purchase. Pay for it with cash. That's going to make you think. about each purchase more. And what most people do, and again, this isn't for everyone, is when you have to start thinking 2 and 3 times about things, you start making better decisions. Pretty amazing.
You know, that's an excellent point. And I personally, it's worked for us, the envelope, based. When the cash is gone, the cash is gone, and that's just it. And also we have a policy similar to what you're saying there, but if it's a purchase that's over $100, we will not make the decision that day. We've got an agreement between my wife and myself that it has to wait till tomorrow regardless. And that way it gives you that breathing room, that time to go, do I really need to buy this? Blah, And usually something happens in the middle of that where it's like, oh crap, the tire busted. You needed the money anyway for something else.
Right. Well, listen, stores love that impulse purchase. That's where they make all their profit, right? They're going to get you in the door for that $99 TV that they're losing $20 on because they're counting on the fact that you're going to buy a bunch of other stuff that you didn't know that you needed or wanted. But when you're in the store, that's what they're counting on. So that's where they make their money. And you got to beat them at that game by making better decisions. And you're going to make better decisions like what you said when you slow down and have a little time to think about it.
Just talk a little bit about the extra insurance programs. When you go to buy the TV, do you want to buy this insurance plan for $500? I've often thought that they're just pretty much purely money makers, and they very rarely get cashed in. But tell me what you know of that.
Well, I know that they're the biggest money makers for these companies, which is why they're all offering them, and they all offer the person that's talking to you about it an extra incentive, and the person gets really snippy in most cases when you say no thank you, and they keep coming back after you. That's how you know that there's a lot of profit in it for anybody that's talking about these things. So if I know it's a great deal for them, chances are it's not a great deal for me, right? Because it can't be a win-win in that situation.
Yeah.
Unless I need it, right? So if I did get the Apple Care on my new iPhone. Reason being is my last iPhone I broke, and they wanted an ungodly amount of money to fix it. And when I went into Target, I got the phone that I thought I was going to spend, and here it is, the iPhone 5S. I thought I was going to spend $100 on this phone, and when I got in there, it was a penny. So in my mind, I said, you know what? I'll get the insurance on it. It was $100. I was going to spend it on the phone. Instead, I spent a penny on it. And now I have the peace of mind. This is one of those things that it might make more sense for because they're expensive when you got to replace them.
Absolutely.
So, but normally, I purchased a firearm recently, and they came at me with the insurance program. No thanks, because the odds are I'm never going to need it. And really, all these manufacturers offer the return policy. The big bust on me is I'd have to pay for shipping, and I'm willing to take that on. Yeah. Self-insuring, you can save a lot of money self-insuring. If you're accident prone and you're always losing and breaking things, it might make sense for you. If you take good care of your stuff, I think more often than not you're throwing your money away.
This has been really, really an interesting conversation because as I'm summing all of this up in my head, we're really talking about basic common sense stuff. Write down your goals. Make a path to those goals. Look at what you're spending and find ways that you can chip away at those little, $40, $50 a month things that can be your homestead, your future farm, your future prep, your getaway property. And it sounds to me like if people would just take a little bit more, care in looking at what they're spending, there's probably, like you said, I think that people have a spending problem, not necessarily an income problem.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with that. In 16 years being in a business where I talk to people about money all the time, I can tell you that my experience is, without a shadow of a doubt, more often than not, it's a spending problem. And one thing we didn't mention, eating out. I mean, you go to work, you go to lunch every day. It's expensive to eat out, even if you're going to McDonald's, and I would strongly recommend that you stay away from those places. But here in Charlotte, when I go out, I'm spending anywhere between $12 and $20 to go out and eat lunch. That's an easy expense to get rid of. Not entirely. I still have to eat, but I can certainly pack a lunch. Or I can go to the grocery store and get one of their $2.99 subs. I don't have to spend $12 or $20 every day for lunch. And that adds up to real money at the end of the week, the end of the month, and the end of the year. Yet the drive-thrus are packed with people just forking over that money every single month. And then they're more often than not the same people that wonder how they're going to make ends meet at the end of the month. It's too bad. But
wow. And they also wonder why they're overweight, like me. Well, I'll tell you what, this has been so awesome. I think we're at a good spot where we can kind of wind up. And I want to give you the final word. But before we do, people, you guys have been enjoying these. I've been getting lots and lots of comments. So is Carolina Prepper. Please keep the questions coming in. Keep the feedback coming in. If there's something that you think that we missed or you want to talk about or us talk about, please put that down there. Don't forget to pass the video around. That really, truly does help both of our channels out and our families. It helps greatly. Like it and subscribe it. And right now, before we say goodbye, Carolina Prepper, sum us up, brother.
Well, I just want to say I like talking about this stuff so much so that I'm actually thinking about writing a book. I kind of loosely titled "How to Get Out of Debt by the Age of 40" because it's more about a lifestyle and freedom than it is about, gee, I want to have this nice car or this bigger house. It's more about the freedom to be able to do what I want to do rather than slave and work for the man. I did hear one quote that really brought it all home for me. Too many of us are going to work every day, working 40 hours a week at a job that we hate, so we can afford to buy things that we don't need, so we can impress people that we don't care about.
Wow. I'll tell you what, man, solid advice all the way around. And, you know, it's funny because myself, I get little bits and pieces of it, but it just seems like such common sense stuff. Just sit down with your bills and figure it out. And I'm grateful for what you've shared today personally. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey,
stay disciplined, my man.
Go ahead.
I said, stay disciplined about it. That's the real challenge.
Yeah. Before we go, I wanted to mention something to the people on my channel. Make sure you go and look at his channel because he just got some really, really cool new stuff. He's got a green screen. He's got like the background where it looks like he's in a really expensive studio, and it just looks really great and making a lot of upgrades. So you're going to want to get over there and subscribe. Once again, let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and you take us out, brother.
Hey, man, thanks for having me, and I look forward to doing more of these with you and some other folks that want to join the forum.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, talk, interview, whatever you want to call it. Please don't forget to subscribe and pass it on. It greatly does help both of our families out. I'm Brad with Big Family Homestead, and you have an amazing day.